In the small village of Willowbrook, nestled between rolling hills and misty forests, there was a witch named Alara. Unlike the witches told of in dark tales, Alara was kind, gentle, and deeply loved by the villagers. Her cottage, made of stone and ivy, stood at the edge of the forest where the sunlight filtered through the trees, casting a magical glow around her home. Birds sang their sweet songs, and wildflowers bloomed in vibrant colors, all because of the love Alara poured into the land. Alara had inherited her magical powers from her grandmother, who had been known as the healer of the village long before Alara was born. But unlike other witches, Alara never sought to use her magic for mischief or to cause harm. Instead, she used her gift to help others. With a flick of her wand, she could mend broken hearts, heal the sick, or even grow fresh vegetables for families who struggled with their crops. One winter, a terrible storm swept through Willowbrook. The winds howled, and the snow piled up high, trapping many villagers in their homes. Food supplies ran low, and people began to worry. That's when Alara decided to act. She called upon the wind spirits and whispered to the trees, asking for their help. Soon, a warm breeze blew through the village, and the snow began to melt away. The birds that had stayed away in the cold returned, singing cheerfully, as if they had been part of the magic too. Alara didn't stop there. She went to every home, using her magic to replenish the food stores. She created baskets full of fruits, vegetables, and bread, all from her enchanted garden. No one in Willowbrook went hungry that winter, thanks to Alara's kindness. But it wasn't just her magic that made Alara special, it was her heart. She would visit the elderly, offering companionship and care. She would listen to the children's stories with patience and joy. She would tend to the animals, healing them when they were injured or sick. Even those who had never seen her magic before felt her warmth and love. One day, a young girl named Lila, who had heard stories about witches being mean or scary, was walking through the woods when she stumbled upon Alara's cottage. She hesitated at the gate, unsure if she should knock. Alara noticed her and smiled kindly, opening the door. "Hello, dear. Are you lost?" Lila shook her head, feeling a little shy. "I was just curious about you. Everyone says witches are scary, but you seem so nice." Lara chuckled softly, inviting Lila inside. "Not all witches are like the stories you hear. Some of us just want to help. Would you like some tea? It's lavender and honey, my special blend." Lila smiled and nodded. As they sat together, Alara shared stories of the forest, the creatures that lived within it, and how her magic worked in harmony with nature. Lila felt safe and comfortable in Alara's presence, a feeling she had never expected to find with someone who was supposed to be scary. Over time, Lila became Alara's apprentice, learning the ways of the forest, the spells that help the earth grow, and the gentle magic of kindness. She learned that being a witch wasn't about power or fear. It was about caring for others and using your gifts to make the world a better place. Years passed, and as Lila grew into a young woman, she too became a healer. The people of Willowbrook came to her for help, just as they had with Alara, who had become more of a legend than a real person to many. But every now and then, Lila would hear stories of the kind witch who had once lived on the edge of the forest, and she would smile, knowing that Alara's kindness still lived on in the hearts of everyone she had touched. The end. This story is about a kind witch who uses her magic to help others and spread love and care. It shows that magic isn't just about spells and powers, but about the goodness and kindness you can bring to the world. Ready for another story? Here you go. In the quiet village of Greendale, there lived a young girl named Lena. She was no ordinary girl, for she had a special gift. She could speak to animals. Ever since she was little, Lena had felt a deep connection to the creatures of the earth. She could understand their thoughts, hear their whispers, and converse with them as easily as she would with a friend. Here you go. It all began one autumn afternoon when Lena was playing near the edge of the Whispering Woods, a mysterious forest known for its ancient trees and hidden secrets. She had always loved exploring the woods, but one day, as she wandered deeper into the forest, she heard a soft voice calling to her. It wasn't the wind or the rustling of leaves, it was a bird. "Hello, young one," the bird said. perched on a branch above her. Lena gasped in surprise, but quickly recovered, her curiosity growing. "Did you just speak to me?" The bird nodded, its bright feathers fluttering in the sunlight. "Indeed I did. My name is Thistle. I've been waiting for you." Lena's heart raced. "Waiting for me? But how?" Thistle tilted his head. "You have a gift, Lena. A gift to speak to all creatures, not just the ones that chirp and scurry. Your heart is open, and the animals have sensed it." And so, Lena's journey into the world of animals began. She spent her days talking to the birds, squirrels, rabbits, and even the foxes who lived in the Whispering Woods. Each creature had its own story, and Lena learned about their lives, their worries, and their joys. One day, a deer named Alawan approached Lena by the edge of the woods. "Lena, we need your help," she said, her eyes filled with concern. "The forest is in danger." Lena's brow furrowed. "What do you mean? What's happening?" Alawan explained that a group of humans had begun to chop down the trees deeper in the forest. The animals were scared, and many of them were being forced to flee their homes. "We can't stop them on our own," Alawan continued, "but you have the power to help. The trees are ancient. They've seen countless generations, and they've kept the balance of the forest for centuries. If they fall, the forest will die." Lena's heart ached at the thought of the forest being destroyed. She knew she had to act, but she didn't know how. The trees were too big, the humans too many. "I will speak with the villagers," Lena said determinedly. "I will tell them what's happening, and I will ask them to stop. If they won't listen to me, I will make them understand." That evening, Lena went to the village square, where the elders gathered. She stood before them, her voice steady but full of emotion. "The Whispering Woods is in danger," she began. "The animals have told me that the trees are being chopped down, and they fear for their homes. The forest is alive. It holds the memories of generations, and without it, the balance of nature will be lost." The villagers exchanged uneasy glances. Many of them had lived near the woods their whole lives, but they hadn't realized the harm that was being done. Lena continued, "The forest has always given us what we need: wood for fire, fruits from the trees, and herbs for healing. It's time we give something back. Please do not destroy the trees. Let us find a way to live in harmony with the forest." The elders, moved by Lena's plea and the sincerity in her voice, agreed to halt the logging. Over time, they worked with Lena and the animals of the forest to create new ways of using the resources without harming the land. They planted new trees, tended to the wildlife, and kept the forest thriving. From that day on, Lena became known as the protector of the Whispering Woods. The villagers came to her for advice on how to live more gently with nature, and the animals saw her as one of their own. Years passed, and Lena's gift only grew stronger. She learned to speak to more animals, including those who lived far beyond the forest, like the wolves in the mountains and the dolphins in the distant sea. She would travel the world, carrying the message of kindness, respect, and balance between humans and nature. Lena never forgot that first conversation with Thistle the bird, and she knew that her gift wasn't just about talking to animals. It was about understanding them and using her voice to protect the world they shared. That's the ending of the story. Here is another story. Once upon a time, in a bustling city, there was a young girl named Amelia. She was just a child when she lost both of her parents to a terrible accident. Left with nothing but a small suitcase of memories, she was sent to live in a local orphanage. The orphanage was a cold, gray building filled with other children who had experienced similar losses. But Amelia, even at such a young age, had a fire within her, a deep desire to rise above her circumstances. Though the orphanage provided for her basic needs, Amelia never felt truly at home. The headmistress was strict and indifferent, and the other children were often distracted by their own worries. Still, Amelia was determined to make something of her life. While other kids played and dreamed of simple things, Amelia spent her free time reading, books on everything from history to philosophy to the law. One day, when she was around 12 years old, Amelia overheard a conversation between the headmistress and a lawyer. The lawyer was there to discuss the legalities of some paperwork for the orphanage, and Amelia, who was always curious, listened in. She heard the lawyer talking about contracts, rights, and justice. Amelia's heart raced. Something about it stirred her deeply. She realized then that the law could be a powerful tool to help people, especially those who had no one to defend them. That moment changed everything for Amelia. She made a silent promise to herself that one day she would become a lawyer. She would not only find a way to improve her own life, but would also fight for the rights of others, just like the lawyer had done for the orphanage. As she grew older, Amelia's determination never wavered. She excelled in school, devouring every book she could find on law and justice. When she was old enough, she applied for scholarships, determined to go to college and eventually law school. Her classmates and the staff at the orphanage were skeptical, thinking it was an impossible dream for a girl who had grown up with so little. But Amelia refused to let their doubts hold her back. At 18, she received a scholarship to a prestigious law school. The journey wasn't easy. Law school was rigorous, and she often felt the weight of her past. But with each hurdle she overcame, Amelia's resolve grew stronger. She worked part-time jobs to support herself, studying late into the night. She faced rejection, failure, and exhaustion, but nothing could break her spirit. Throughout her time in law school, Amelia found herself drawn to public interest law, focusing on helping underserved communities. She became passionate about fighting for the underrepresented, those who couldn't afford to hire a lawyer, those who had no one to speak for them. She remembered the countless times she'd seen children at the orphanage suffer because no one was there to protect their rights. She knew she had to make a difference. Finally, after years of hard work, Amelia graduated from law school, becoming the first person in her orphanage to earn a law degree. It was a proud moment, one that felt like a victory not only for her, but also for every child who had ever felt alone or forgotten. Amelia started her legal career at a nonprofit organization that focused on providing free legal services to low-income families and individuals. She quickly gained a reputation for her fierce advocacy and compassion. She fought tirelessly for children, families, and marginalized communities, always remembering where she had come from and how far she had traveled to get there. As the years passed, Amelia became known not only as a brilliant lawyer, but also as a symbol of hope. She established a foundation to help young people, especially orphans, who wanted to pursue higher education, but lacked the resources. She gave speeches, mentored students, and worked on cases that changed lives. One day, as she was walking through the city on her lunch break, she saw a small orphanage, one that looked eerily similar to the one she had grown up in. She went inside and spoke with the children, listening to their stories and encouraging them to never give up on their dreams, no matter their background. She promised them that they too could become whatever they set their hearts on, just like she had. Amelia had become more than just a lawyer. She had become a beacon of hope and a living testament to the power of resilience, hard work, and determination. That's the end of the stories. Here's the next story. Once upon a time, in the small town of Rivertown, there was a boy named Ethan who was known for one thing. He always slept at school. No matter the time of day, whether it was during math, history, or even gym class, Ethan could always be found dozing off at his desk. His classmates would giggle as they watched him sleep, and his teachers would shake their heads in frustration. At first, no one thought much of it. Everyone assumed Ethan was just lazy or disinterested in school. After all, he would sleep through important lessons, and his grades were slipping. But there was more to Ethan's story than anyone realized. Ethan's home life was far from perfect. His parents worked long hours at 2 different jobs to make ends meet. He was often left alone after school, struggling to keep up with the tasks at home, cooking, cleaning, and making sure his younger sister did her homework. By the time night fell, he was exhausted from all the responsibilities he had to take care of, and the little sleep he did get was never enough to recharge him for the next day. Despite his best efforts, Ethan had trouble staying awake during class. It wasn't that he didn't want to learn or that he was uninterested. He loved reading and daydreaming about adventures, but his body was always too tired to keep up with the fast pace of school. One day, Mrs. Carter, his kind-hearted teacher, noticed that Ethan had fallen asleep again during her English lesson. Instead of calling him out, she quietly approached his desk after class and sat down beside him. "Ethan, she said softly. "I've noticed you're often very tired. Are you okay?" Ethan hesitated, not sure how to explain his situation. He wasn't used to talking about his struggles, but Mrs. Carter's warm smile encouraged him to speak. "It's just at home," Ethan began, his voice barely above a whisper. "I don't get much sleep. I have to help with things after school, and it's hard to keep up with everything." Mrs. Carter listened carefully, her heart aching for the boy who was trying so hard. "I understand," she said, "but school can be tough when you're exhausted. You don't have to do it all alone, Ethan. Let's figure out a way to help you." Over the next few weeks, Mrs. Carter reached out to Ethan's parents and learned about the challenges they were facing. With the school's support, they arranged for Ethan to receive extra help at home. They also spoke to his parents about finding more balance in their schedules, so Ethan didn't have to carry the weight of so many responsibilities. One of the most helpful changes came when the school provided Ethan with a tutor to help him catch up on his lessons. The tutor was patient and understanding, and together, they worked on the subjects Ethan had fallen behind in. Slowly, Ethan started to regain his confidence. With the extra support, Ethan's exhaustion started to lessen. He began to understand that it was okay to ask for help, and he didn't have to be perfect all the time. Mrs. Carter also made sure to give him breaks during class when he seemed particularly tired, offering him some time to rest before diving back into lessons. It wasn't an instant fix. Ethan still had days when he felt tired, and sometimes he would fall asleep during class. But now, when he woke up, he didn't feel embarrassed. His teachers understood, and they worked with him to find solutions. They gave him tools to manage his time better and encouraged him to rest when he needed it. As the months passed, Ethan became more engaged in school. His grades improved, and he started staying awake and alert during class more often. He still had a lot of responsibility at home, but he learned how to manage his time, making sure to get a little more sleep each night. He also began talking to his parents about his struggles, and together, they worked to make life at home easier for him. By the end of the school year, Ethan had transformed. He was no longer known as the boy who always slept at school. He was the boy who had overcome his struggles, learned to ask for help, and found balance in his life. His classmates admired his determination, and his teachers were proud of his progress. Ethan's story became a reminder to everyone that sometimes there's more to a problem than meets the eye, and that with a little support, kindness, and understanding, even the toughest challenges can be overcome. And that's the end of the story. Enjoy the last bit of this video. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for the next episode.